Welcome back to Insibles, everyone. So I'm going to go down with you guys in the S&P 500. As you guys can see, again, we did have a bounce back today. We did have a decent response from Powell. We had more of a neutral response. He did not mention anything new. As you guys can see, again, we did have that bounce back on the 5-minute chart in the middle of the day, and we did mention that in the Insibles room. So we did, again, have this bounce back on the day. But our true question is, are we going to continue on above those previous levels that we did have from our previous highs that we had from last Friday at 401? Are we going to continue on with lower highs here, or are we going to continue on with higher lows? As you guys can see, bouncing off of support with higher lows. So as you guys can see, again, we did have this bounce today. Again, we did mention yesterday that we had an engulfing candle showing a lot of strength to the upside, and again with a neutral Powell today. After mentioning that in the Insibles room, we did have that continuation on higher. However, we are again just below, like we mentioned, our last week's highs at 401 that we did also mention in yesterday's video that we would want to see if we can continue on above. So again, getting that rejection just below our 401 level that we would be looking to see if we can continue on past. Again, ultimately we want to see if we can continue on above our range between 401 and 405. As you guys can see, we do have the upper end of our inverted hammer here that we have been tracking. If we can continue on above our inverted hammer that we had here, we would want to see if we can continue on above this 405 range that we are watching here. Again, if we cannot continue on above 405 with strength, then in my opinion, we cannot gap up into this gap down that we had previously. Again, as you guys can see, we do have our 20-day moving average crossing just below our 50. As you guys can see, multiple times previously, we actually had a similar situation here. We were curling down. We did have a previous gap down, and then we were consolidating, and as you guys can see, the 20 crossing below our 50. Even though we did jump above our 20-day moving average, we did continue on lower as we did get those confirmations to the downside. As you guys can see, we again do have a nice bounce today after a relief rally from yesterday, having a pullback. Assumptions that Powell may be very hawkish, and then Powell today being very passive. So again, we are going to be looking, in my opinion, for that possible rejection on our 20-day moving average. If we do get a rejection, we get that possible inverted hammer like we had here. Again, that inverted hammer would be 1/3 of our body with 2/3 of our wick compared to the body that we have here. As you guys can see, again, that rejection that we would have to the upside, in my opinion, if our 20-day moving average did come over. That is what we'd be looking for more confirmation. Now, looking at the MACD here, as you guys can see, we do have that continuation on a decrease in sell pressure today after Powell was very neutral. We did mention for the last couple of days that we did, again, have our white shaded line. We had a continuation on these white shaded lines that we did mention yesterday, and then looking for that continuation on white shaded lines going to today with Powell speaking. We sure enough did get today. Now, we do have our 12 EMA curling here. We are not quite curling above our 26 EMA quite yet, so we want to see if we do continue on with curling here. If that does not happen, for example, if CPI does for some reason, which it's not expected, by the way, CPI is not expected to come out higher than our prior CPI 8.5. Again, before our 8.5, we headed at 9.1 and 8.6. Even before that, we came down to 8.5. We are not expected to have higher than an 8.5 CPI. However, if we do get possible anticipations on almost a guarantee with a 75 basis point hike leading into September's Fed rate hike, with that increase in CPI, then in my opinion, we could start to curl down here, possibly get some sell pressure coming in, and looking for those decreases in sell pressure from there is what I'll be looking for to see if we can, again, continue on lower and get those EMA lines to cross once again to possibly continue on higher here. As you guys can see, even though we do have decreases in sell pressure, we do want our EMA lines to ultimately cross here for that ultimate pivot here. If we do not get our EMA lines across above the median of our MACD, then we will not have that ultimate strength. Again, like we mentioned yesterday, we had one of the largest rallies of the year because we did have our EMA lines crossing above the median of our MACD. So again, making sure we are getting confirmation here is very key. And as you guys can see on the relative strength, as you guys can see yesterday, we were pointing up. We are still pointing up. Our question is, can we continue on above the median of our RSI? Very much, in my opinion, predicated on how low or how high CPI really is. If we do get an increase in CPI, or even if we get a decrease in CPI, and then the Fed say we're still going to increase to 75 basis points, then in my opinion, we could get that rejection. And that is, in my opinion, what we're worried about at this point. If we do, again, get that continuation on decreases in CPI, and the Feds say that we still have more tightening to do, then in my opinion, we will be looking for possible bullish divergence here on higher lows. Again, looking for that confirmation here on those bullish divergence is what I'll be looking for on higher lows, as we are again oversold, as we are getting lower highs here on our price action. If we do again continue on lower, looking for that possible bounce here on our 280 level from here. As you guys can see on our candle structure, if we are looking at exactly what our strength is, we did not close. As you guys can see, we do have a body coming in once again, but we did not close, again, above our 400 range, which is, again, the upper end of our body that we were looking to see if we can close above here. So, again, we are not quite closing above it. As you guys can see, we are almost there, but we are not quite closing above it. We are very close. We do want to see if we can close above it and then continue on above 405 again to see if we do have room to run to the upside, as again, we did get this gap down. So again, looking for that room to run to the upside, making sure we are staying focused on this data. Again, like I said, I would be looking for a possible candle structure setup for either a continuation on above 405 or possibly that continuation on, again, multiple times. We usually do continue on lower if our 20 crosses below our 50, especially if we're getting confirmation with engulfing candles coming out. We are looking for that possible rejection, or if we are going to possibly continue on higher, in my opinion, very much predicated on what CPI has to say going into Tuesday. Again, our previous CPI at 8.5, our prior CPIs before that, 2 CPIs before that, 9.1 and 8.6. We did drop below 2 CPIs to 8.5, wondering if we are going to continue on with that decrease in inflation, as Powell said that he needs that continuation on decrease in inflation for that possible slowdown in interest rates. But again, with Europe as bad as it is and continuing with interest rates and continuing to stimulate their economy, we'll see if CPI comes out higher or lower, and exactly what the Feds have to say after CPI will be extremely key. And of course, we mentioned anything that is worth mentioning in the Insta room. And looking at our Bollinger Bands, as you guys can see, again, we did get that rejection on the lower end of our deviation that we have been talking about. Again, the lower end of our deviation, getting that rejection here, as you guys can see, bouncing just off of the lower end of our deviation, not continuing with the body into the lower end of our deviation, not showing that decompression to the downside. So again, getting that bounce here, looking to see if we can jump back above our 20 if we are going to continue on higher, or if, again, like I said, if we are going to be looking for that possible candle structure for that possible rejection as our 20 is crossing again below our 50 here. So again, being careful, making sure we are getting confirmation is extremely key, and we will continue to focus on that in the Instabills room every single day. Now again, with that said, if you are a day trader or you are looking for very volatile breakouts that we mention every single day in the Instabills room, go to instabills.com in the description below, and you will never miss a breakout alert today again. And all of you Instabills that come over every single day and support the channel, very, very choppy day today, but honestly, it was a good response with Powell. I'm glad that he didn't go super hawkish. I'm glad that he's being very passive. And honestly, if you guys did play that non-event on Powell, mentioning not much at all compared to what he mentioned prior that we mentioned in the Instabills room, then a very nice play. Just taking what the market gives us. We'll continue to do that in the Instabills room. And again, if you guys do like this video, it does help the channel grow, and I do appreciate it very much. And again, God bless you all, and I'll see you guys in pre-market.